Okay. Chatham split from Orange in 1771. That was even before that war was won. Over time, the population did spark, especially that crazy-ass Chatham Park.
Welcome y'all to Chatham County, home to Goldston, Bennett, Bear Creek, and Bondley. Lots of folks are moving here, and now downtown Pittsburgh's drowning in beer. Vibe feels a little less quaint and a little more city.
We're halfway between the mountains and the sea.
We're known for our unique diversity. We encourage you to take in all our charms, artist controversy and sustainable farms, and the Bynum Front Porch shows in Chatham County.
What is the Sound of Chatham?
The Sound of Chatham. Well, mine's going to be really short, believe it or not. It's, hey, hey. That's it. It's community, you know. It's the extended double syllable or extended, hey. Like, just, we're so glad to see each other.
First of all, welcome to Bynum. Welcome. It's now referred to as the Bynum General Store. My parents ran a general store here for 43 years. It was Frank Harris and Louise Harris, and my grandfather, Frank Farrell. It was called Harris and Farrell. Here we had a meat counter that sat across, had a glass front, and people could come in and see the meats displayed. It wasn't that large, but you know, you had stick bologna, you had, on certain days you had chicken. On Fridays, we always had fresh fish that came in from Norfolk, so that was sold here. Also, fresh eggs. Daddy had a couple of wooden boxes, and we sold eggs. We did not have egg cartons. That was the thing that you just didn't, well, they were from other places. We sold them in a bag or in a small box. So we had a gentleman who came in one night and stopped at the front door where you came in and said, "Have you got any eggs?" Well, I was behind the meat counter, and I said, "Yes, we do." So he started walking this way. "How much are they?" "They're 39 cents a dozen." He stopped in his tracks and said, "Well, down at Mr. Durham's, they're only 29 cents a dozen." I said something I should not have said. I knew when I said it I was not supposed to. "Why didn't you buy them down there?" My dad was standing here and his head snapped around, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to hear about this later. The gentleman said, "Well, he was out." So I looked at him, I said, "Well, if we were out, ours only would be 19 cents a dozen." So he got 2 dozen eggs. So again, it's how you learn to interact with the public. You have to be attentive to what their needs are, and you can't insult them, but you can have fun with them, which is what we always enjoyed.
My dad was kind of a small town Southern Renaissance man, eccentric, but also very traditional, going to Lions Club and stuff. But he had like solar panels and was always like trying to make his own tofu and just like, yeah, he was a funny guy. But I would worked in his office after school, and sometimes I would run errands and have to go to the hardware store. But sometimes I just didn't want to go back to the office, and I would delay my return. And I loved, as you can tell, like love talking to people. So I'd go in Carrie's hardware store downtown, and the old men still hung out in the store and hung out with Carrie and talked. And they used to do that a lot in many cultures. Like you go to Italy and the guys are hanging out doing that. And my dad definitely came from a town in Wilson's Mills where guys used to do that in the country store there. And so they were doing that, and I kind of like to stall and hear them talk and tell stories. But I was in there one day kind of stalling, and I felt like I was sitting down, I can't remember why, but this guy came in who was clearly from someplace else, and we definitely weren't used to that yet. If someone came from another place, we're like, oh, new fodder, we want to hear where you're from and what you're up to. And he came in and he just said, give me 10 nails, blah, blah, blah. Didn't say hello, didn't anything. And we were all just like, what? He didn't say hello? And he was dressed up kind of fancy. And we were just all taken aback, like, how rude. He didn't say hello first. Whoa. And now that's kind of normal. Like, yeah, oh, hello, give me such and such. I'm here for this. You just get right to the point when you're shopping. And Carrie said, well, he was wearing this nice suit. And Carrie said, well, you sure do look nice in that suit you're wearing there. And we were like, Carrie, you didn't say that. Because to us, it was an insult. You sure do look mighty fine in that suit you're wearing. That was Carrie's way of saying, well, who do you think you are coming in here not saying hello to us, acting like we're nobody, dressed up in a suit? I mean, that was an insult to this guy. And we were like, oh, he just told him he had a nice suit. But that was his indirect way of saying, who do you think you are? It's implied. It's an implied language. And the guy said, oh, thank you, it's Brooks Brothers, or whatever he said. And we were like, oh. He didn't understand that Carrie just laid him a blow. And then Carrie said, well, I reckon I can get you these nails. And he said, well, here are your nails, sir. You got your nails. Still waiting for him to redeem himself. And the guy's like, all right, here's the thing. Thanks, and went out the store. And we were all just like, oh, who was that rude man? And that would be so normal now. But we were in shock.
So one of the things I realized when I first moved to town is, as a Yankee, I was not very welcome by a lot of the traditional, the old timers. And I understood why, because when I was raised 2.5 hours out of New York City, and when the New York City folks came up, they said we were too slow, and they said they were very critical of our small town rural life in some ways. And we thought they drove too fast, and they talked too fast, and they were rude, and all the sort of things that I thought about the New Yorkers. When I moved down here, I knew exactly who I was. I was that person, and so I thought, well, I've raised in a small town. What you do in small towns is you just pitch in, you get involved. And so I went into town, and I got on the new group that was forming. The National Organization of Women was forming a local chapter that the Chatham County Commissioners had formed, and I got on that, and I helped start the Family Violence Rape Crisis Board and group, and I got on that board, and I just joined I just got involved as a small town person. And so that was really how I got to know the community. And as I say, it helped a lot that I understood and really appreciated the local people. It's just very interesting the way marginalized and us and them kind of goes. The Southern accent in the North and in other places is seen as not intelligent. And so I right away started listening to myself and saying, okay, listen to the words. Yes, Gutch Murchison, who's on the commissioners, and he's a pharmacist in South City, and he talks really slowly. But when you listen to what he is saying, what's coming out is very intelligent and very helpful and very connected to the community.
So one of the things that I remember, people who moved out from Chapel Hill, were surprised how well spoken many of the people here in Bynum were. And part of that was because of the location next to Chapel Hill. You had the influence of people who came here. Now there was definite accents, and there was language that we used. I remember one lady who moved here from the mountains, and she bought her groceries, and she asked my dad, "Would you put them in a poke?" Whereas someone here said, "Would you put them in a sack?" Someone else may have said, "Would you put them in a paper bag?" So again, it's the language. And that was one of the things I relish about having grown up here, is hearing the language and hearing the language change, hear the pronunciations change. But now when I started work at the hospital, I have to confess, I got on the elevator and said, would you mash 3 for me? And somebody says, do what? Would you press 3 for me? You learn to adapt.
I would go to places like, like here, if you go to a friend's house for supper, and I had to work that back in my language because I lost the word supper. I'm keeping it. But so if you go to a friend's house for supper and their parents would ask you if you wanted more, you were supposed to say no the first time because you didn't want to be rude and take more food. So even if you wanted seconds, you're supposed to say no. But it was completely understood that they were supposed to ask you twice. And then they'd ask you a second time, and depending on the fervor with which they asked you the second time, you would know if it was appropriate to then acknowledge that you actually indeed wanted seconds, and you couldn't do it. So I would say, oh, no, thank you so much. I know you need this for lunch tomorrow. No. But that cue that you need this for lunch tomorrow was cue that, oh, she might actually want more because she's justifying it. So then that would cue the parent, oh, you might want more. Well, please have some more. We have too much. And I don't, it will please me to I'll get out, if you would have some more or whatever they would say. And then you would say, oh, well, in that case, I would actually like just a little bit more. And it was still like a little bit more. And it's not really unlike in Spanish, like ito, like putting ito on the ends of words, like un poquito. Diminutive speak in Spanish is to not be so direct. And so we have that too. And so we would say, oh, well, if you insist, okay, I will have some more. But when new people coming in, I'd go to friends whose parents didn't grow up here, and they'd ask me, would you like have some seconds, Jada? I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Like, okay. And I'm like, what? No, but I'm still hungry. I want seconds,
When I was in high school, I went on a trip to New York, and I was talking to like a coffee barista, and she like mocked my accent. And I was like, oh. She goes, no, I don't mean to mock you. It's just like I used to have that accent. It's kind of what she said to me. And she was like, couldn't have it in New York. And I was like, that's interesting. And I don't know, it just kind of left a weird taste in my mouth. And I was like, oh, okay. And I did find myself, getting in academic situations and not necessarily getting mocked, but people going, I like your accent. And I don't really speak that way anymore. Like so much so that if I am home and I am on the phone with my best friend who is still Southern as all get out, that I kind of code switch back to that really Southern accent. And I hate for myself that I've kind of lost it in everyday speech. And so I would hope that, anybody who comes goes ahead and like understands this is the South. You have come into like my home, and I'm just as educated as the next person. And I don't want somebody who has that lovely accent, same thing, just as educated as the next, but feels like even like that they need to change their dialect in their own home. I love Southern speech. I just love it. It feels homey to me, and I worry that as, kind of as that feeling happened for me, where I feel like I need to standardize my speech to be taken seriously, that won't happen to like future generations. I listen to home movies all the time of my brothers, and I was like, where did these Southern kids go? All completely standardized. But then you're talking to somebody in Al's Diner, and it comes right back, luckily, but I worry that it'll completely disappear and I won't hear it anymore. I'll have to listen to like old home movies again, and it'll sound like a weird thing. So I would hope that people who move in realize that this is our home and we're going to be exactly well, not exactly. There's some things to change, but exactly, at least for language-wise and like that neighborly compassion. I don't want people to be like closed off. Like I feel like other places are like, you don't need to bother me right now. Like, please don't come and talk to me. Don't knock on my door. Like, I just want to be by myself. I don't want that like open doorness and southernness of Chatham County to disappear with the growing infrastructure.
We like to think that our language is important, particularly as an identifying factor of who we are. And as we've grown and changed, and over the years, the infiltration of other people, we know that we don't sound nearly as original as we once were, but it's coming through. It's part of your history, absolutely. Whether it be UNC at Chapel Hill, Duke, or NC State,
They would come through
they
here.
had to come through Pittsburgh. So you can talk to people from various places who attended those colleges long years ago, and they always remember Pittsburgh was the little town with the courthouse in the circle. And so I guess we needed to be famous for something back then besides chickens and moonshine, right?
I remember going through.
You do?
Yeah, yep. That was the only way. There was no interstate.
That's right. There was no other way.
We've been working with speech samples from Chatham County for over 5 years now. Of course, we had an interim during COVID where we couldn't collect it, but we have an amazing sample, which is all preserved so people can have access to them. But we also have a very robust oral history that we've taken these samples, and we ask lots of questions about history and so forth. We don't care what people talk about as linguists, so we can ask them oral history questions, and then we get great insights into how the county has been developing.
We've been collecting these stories since 2019 for our data to see how languages have been changing in the county over the past 5 years. But we want to give something back to the community that's meaningful to them. So being sure that they have access to these stories of their family, their friends, their neighbors for generations to come, I think is a really important gift that we can give to the community.
One, I get to learn a lot about my county and things that we were supposedly famous for that I've never heard about, that I'm honestly excited for other people my age to realize as we have more people my age wanting to stay in Chatham County and enjoy the development, but also, see change and be a little bit sad about that. Having an oral history from my grandfather so that, the day he passed, I was able to email you directly and say, I need that interview. You do whatever you want with it, but I need it to listen to, and just be able to hear him say my name after him passing and knowing I won't hear it again, and being able to share it with my family. It's a beautiful contribution that he would not have made if we weren't doing these oral histories. And I really hope that, in the last couple years, if people have also lost their family members, they get to go back and listen to this too, and hurt a little bit, but really be grateful to not lose that Southern dialect you get to hear, and then your family members' stories. It's very special. And I think a lot of people will have that for a lot of years, because I do expect while people will come into us, people will stay too, and then they'll have that resource.
I see this as primarily as a resource for both people who have been here their whole lives and who have generations deep roots in this county, so that they can hear the stories of their neighbors, their friends, to make sure that their stories are preserved in this way and are accessible to the family members. But I also see this as a resource for newcomers. Chatham is experiencing these giant changes, right? They're going to bring a lot of outsiders into the community. And so I hope that this is a resource for people who move to the county to learn more about their new home, to learn more about the organizations and the people and the activities that they can plug into, so that Chatham's not just kind of a springboard into the rest of the triangle, but is a place where they can call home, that they can become integrated into the community and make change and really call Chatham their home.
Sort of romantically speaking, I would say Sound of Chatham is like wind blowing and rain falling and machinery running. Rain falling, wind blowing, machinery running. It's always moving. It's, you know, I've come to think that the existence, like in Chatham and anywhere, but it's just plain, just another form of existence, and that really we're talking about the frequency with which events may happen is the speed of light. You know, it's the frequency with which stuff happens, and it's just going by, and my view is that the present is the thing that doesn't exist. It's the future is coming by and hits us in the present, and then it all becomes the past, and everything is the past that we've done so far, you know. And so the sounds of Chatham is like moving. It's just never the same. None of us are ever the same. It just keeps going, and I can't apply it just to Chatham anymore. It's sort of everything altogether.
It seems like we're growing faster than some of our services and availability of space at the grocery store. You know, yes, increased people means you have more grocery stores and you have more choices of the products that you buy. But it's not, you don't go in and, hi Jane, how are you? I haven't seen you since so-and-so.
Growing up here, they wanted to keep Chatham County, at least Pittsburgh area of it, pretty much as a, I'm gonna say, bedroom community. There was an opportunity to bring different industry and that type of thing in here, and the powers to be said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to keep it. But as we see today, you can only resist that so long, because you lose a lot of that economic power to adjacent areas.
So far, right this minute, it's still a small town. It's about to go through a huge change because of the Chatham Park development that was proposed to bring 60,000 people to Pittsburgh, and there were 4,000 to start with, or 3,600 or something. So, so it's about to undergo it is undergoing a huge change now.
What's the cumulative impact of all of this going to be? I mean, we know Chatham Park, if it really builds out to what they're saying it will, and it might, it'll be a very different looking area around Pittsburgh.
If the developers want something, they'll get it. And there's such a lot of money riding on all the land around here. I mean, every time you turn around, there's another 100, 200, 400 acres that's being bought up and developed.
Another major demographic transition has been over the past 30 years, I'd say, maybe, yeah, about 30 years, an influx of Latino and Latina people who came to do initially the work of the poultry industry in Chatham and now many other trades and industries. And after that period of time, also their next generation, successive generations, launching into the entire swath of the economy.
There's signs of political change all over the country, but these often reflect the kind of demographic changes that can accumulate for decades. In the states of the old Confederacy, change has been moving in. Over the last couple of decades, North Carolina and surrounding states have drawn large numbers of Latino immigrants. Siler City in North Carolina's rolling Piedmont region, used to be the kind of town where almost everybody, black and white, had roots going back a century or more. But today, about half of Siler City's residents are Latino immigrants drawn to grueling jobs in the chicken processing plants.
I came from Washington, D.C. I was a journalist. I was an investigative reporter for an organization called the Center for Public Integrity. And I was working on a book project on special interest money being spent on the Hill to members of Congress. And I got really interested in the food processing industry and labor practices. I chose Chatham County because at the time, in 1999, we had 3 processing plants in Chatham County, 2 owned by Townsend Poultry and 1 owned by Goldkist, and about 300 poultry farmers in the county. In researching all that, it became quickly apparent that many towns in the American South were undergoing demographic change because of the food processing industry.
A lot of people that I know, a lot of people, have always worked at a chicken processing plant, because before Mount Air, my dad worked in the 90s for another chicken processing plant called Pilgrim's Pride, so many years ago. So they had a branch here in Siler City, they had a branch out in Staley, and they had a branch out in Goldston. And people from Siler City would work there a lot of years ago. So when Mount Air came back, well, that's a familiar place. I know how to do the work. I won't struggle. I know that it's cold, but I can do the work. So a lot of people flock to Mount Air.
A lot of the issues, like beginning in the 21st century, the 2000s, were all about like stranger. Who are these people? Well, 20 years later, people have grown up together. Their kids have gone to school together. Maybe there have been some dating or marriages across racial and ethnic lines. And so people are less stranger and more neighbors. And that's a huge change.
Coming back home, I realized I really like Siler City. And I remember what one of my teachers used to tell me. They were like, we need people to go out and study and then come back. Come back. Because a lot of kids, when they open their minds to, bigger and better things, then they kind of forget the small city that they came from. So the small city stays like that. Sure enough, I was exhausted by the time I finished college. I was just like so burned out. I was like, I can't continue. I can't get a master's. I'm not going to survive it. So my parents were like, well, come back. You'll find a job here. And I did, and I found out I liked it. I liked being in Siler City. I liked commuting 5-10 minutes to my job, not spending too much time on the road. And again, people knew me, and it feels good when people know you, whether it's your family or if it's the work that you've done before, you've translated for them before. They're like, oh, I know you. So they feel trust.
The Latino community in Chatham County was the #1 in the state in income per capita. And so I do believe that a lot of the Latino community has been investing in Siler City and throughout Chatham County. And I think that's a testament to just years of hard work. Of course, a lot of things don't happen overnight, nor like in 1 year, especially being a new community to the region. But I mean, you see that bakery right there, that's Latino owned. You have the Hispanic Liaison, which is a nonprofit. You have a store back here in the corner next to the, I think it's the Rents facilities. They're owned by a Guatemalan because the store is Tikal, so Tikal is in Guatemala, so I'm guessing they're Guatemalan. And then you also have a store down the street. You'll see a yellow sign above. That's been there years, decades. They're Guatemalan. Next, a little further down, there's a stylist, and I think they're Mexican. In front of them, there's a facility that operates food trucks, and the guy grew up with the guy. He actually played soccer with me my first 2 years, his last 2 years in high school. He's Mexican, he owns that.
We're in the midst of this demographic change now, where we see, when I got to Siler City, we saw Siler City maybe about 30% Latino, and today it's over 50%.
I see a lot of opportunity, and I see opportunity that's not just relegated to the few, right? It's not just for the wealthy. It's not just for a particular demographic. I see opportunity for us to now do things in a way that, when we say there is opportunity for good jobs, we're actually talking about for everybody. And so we're building pathways to success. And how do you do that? You start in schools. That we're working with developers and manufacturers and organizations to really show kids and connect kids with the jobs of the future.
If you look at the history of Chatham, I think because there was so much land and there was so much disbursement of the land, I think that there was an opportunity to kind of be comfortable in who we were as Black people. And therefore, there was a level of self-determination that I see that exists in Chatham County. To be sure, terror certainly visited itself on Chatham County. There were lynchings and there was a lot of discrimination in Chatham County. But for the most part, people were able to be who they were with themselves in community. And it was like that to an extent in Chapel Hill, but it was really like that, I think, to a larger extent in Chatham County. And if we look at what's going on right now in the Chatham County school system, I think there is an opportunity and a real effort to embrace that history and look at these historical boundaries to achieving the type of education that we want our children to achieve. And I think that conversation is really deep in Chatham. I think Chatham models how we can look at the past with clear, truthful eyes and be able to really make an assessment in terms of like where we go.
Chatham County is beautiful. We have lakes and rivers and streams and parks and forests. How do we ensure that the kids who need that most get access to it? I often look at communities that have not done that initially, right? You look at parts of California where you can be making $150,000 and not able to live comfortably. There were opportunities a long time ago to adjust that for that. And I think we have the advantage of being able to look at our neighbors and other communities, see the places where they didn't make the decisions that needed to be made, have the conversations that needed to be had, and get ahead of it. Even in the triangle, we can look around and say, there are places where the growth happened to the community and the community wasn't in charge of the growth. And I don't want us to be that. I want us to be stewards of growth.
There is not necessarily an appreciation, in my view, for the history of the people who have been here for generations. I understand and appreciate and embrace the ability to expand, but I think we need to make sure that we do it in a respectful manner, and I think we need to tread very carefully on the land and legacy of people who have had so much taken away, but have contributed so much to the development of this county. And I don't think that has always happened. It certainly has not happened in Chapel Hill. So I think Chapel Hill can be an example of what effects gentrification and exclusion can have on the community, because when we ignore the people who have been there, we also lose some of our character. We also lose some of the things that make Chatham County what it is. And so I think we need to hold on to that real tight and look at our expansion through those lenses.
The sound of Chatham County can be anything from the wilderness to the river.
The State Highway Patrol began moving in on the marchers as they approached the entrance to the state landfill. The signs and chants of the protesters made clear their opposition to having the toxic chemical buried in their county.
People had always talked about the water in Pittsburgh is terrible. Well, Pittsburgh is the only town on the whole Haw River that used the river as its source drinking water. Everybody else built reservoirs on creeks where you could protect it. I mean, kind of, if you talk to people in Alamance County, like in the 80s, I mean, you almost would have been talking about kind of like an open sewer. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was pretty bad. And we're talking about wastewater as well as industrial, the textile mill.
For old timers, now that we know about PFAS and PFOA and these perfluorinated and polyfluorinated compounds, and we know more about 1,4-dioxane, I think some of the old timers in Pittsburgh are just kind of jaded. It's just like, it's always been polluted. What are we going to do about it? Maybe they feel a sense of hopelessness. But for people who come from afar and recognize that we don't have to have it this way, there's a great energy and desire to solve the problem.
I was a commissioner, and I was interested in having clean water, and the thought of hog waste going into my drinking water was not acceptable. And so I set out to do something about that. That there are other ways. I knew that in the eastern part of North Carolina, they had fixed these hog waste, I forget what they're called, but places for hog waste to be used productively as fertilizer. So I wanted to see that happen in Chatham instead of dumping it into our river. The farmers were not happy. They thought that I was interfering with their business and I should keep my mouth shut. And they publicly let it be known that they didn't like me very much. It all worked out, and the irony of it is that about a year later, or maybe 2 years later, the state came out with the very thing that I was advocating for, so I was justified.
People came to, as I understand, they came to UNC Chapel Hill to study. They graduated or dropped out, and it was just natural that they settled in Chatham County because there was an abundance of fallow farms and cheap housing, and a great number of hippies or counterculture folks settled in Chatham and left their footprint and their thumbprint. And one of those ways is that several of them had an entrepreneurial bent and decided to get interested and invested in solar energy. That activity in clean energy, in many ways, I think, inspired Chatham County, so a few people in Chatham County in the '80s to explore our dependence on fossil petroleum, diesel, and gasoline by making biodiesel out of waste French fry grease and fryer oil.
Biodiesel is taking waste grease from literally like French fries in restaurants and turning it into fuel for your car if you have a diesel car. And so we had a very vibrant business, and we had probably 300 owners and around the Triangle driving around on our French fry grease. And it was wild, and it was one of the biggest co-ops biodiesel businesses in the nation, and we did a lot of education. We had conferences around it. I think Willie Nelson, we used to fill up like Willie Nelson's bus when he would come. We filled up Bob Dylan, Jack Johnson. So a lot of the musicians would use it in their buses. It put us in a sustainable leadership role, and so I think we learned a lot. She's one of our star local farmers, Meredith Light.
Wow,
look at her, like.
Well, we love having
our farmers market here at the plant. It's fun. People come to the plant and they stumble on us. And so we sell them all sorts of delicious food. And we're just happy to be here, even on a rainy day like today.
Yeah, can you believe that? I know. So she's got ginger. I'm going to buy some ginger and some microgreens from you.
Excellent.
This was part of the sustainable community in terms of agriculture. Lots of farmers, some of the children may go and work in the cotton mill, but they also worked on the farm. My grandfather had 2 boys and 3 girls. He did truck farming. He would raise tomatoes or vegetables and would take them into Chapel Hill and sell them at some of the grocery stores. People would come in here, Frank, I've got a bushel of tomatoes. Do you want them? Well, Dad said, yes, we want them, because you knew that he needed the money. Or I've got a bushel of sweet potatoes. And so my dad would buy those and then sell them to people who may not raise sweet potatoes. Everybody had a little garden where they had tomatoes, but they didn't necessarily raise pigs or hogs because they were here in town. The farmers out in the community did that. They would have enough room that they could raise 5 or 6, keep some of the meat to sustain them through the wintertime, bring some and sell it at the local stores. It wasn't just here. Mr. Carey Durham did that.
Everybody had their own plot, and they were pretty much farming for their family, you know. But from a community standpoint, people helped each other, you know, when there was need, during harvest time, during planting time, or even during some disaster or something like that. They would come over and help out. You would, you know, talk to your neighbors and say, hey, I'm gonna have a corn shucking. I need to get this shucked and get it into the crib for the winter. So everybody would come over, usually on a Friday night or something like that, and, you know, they would all gather around this pile of corn, and they would start shucking it, and then as you shuck it, you would throw the corn that had been shucked into the crib, or put it in baskets, and somebody would take it and put it in the crib, and that's where it would be stored for the winter. But that was a community event where a lot of stories were told, a lot of giant tales, some truthful, some not, some exaggerated. But, you know, and the favorite was to always have, you know, a jar of moonshine or white liquor hidden in the corn pile, somewhere behind the corn pile. And you keep seeing people make trips to the end of the corn pile and trying to figure out what was going on. You know, when you were young, you didn't really know what was happening, and then you finally figured it out as you got further into the corn shucking. People were not quite shucking as much corn, and the stories were getting more grandiose and the lies were getting bigger. So it was really good entertainment. So as a young kid seeing this, you know, it is really something that kind of stuck with me over the years, because it is a very fond memory, one, of everybody coming together to help each other. That was the main thing, that you saw people come together as a community, and when you needed help, they help you. And then the historical piece of it is hearing some of the old stories about people that had gone on beforehand. And you could hear some of the greatness of, you know, some of the seemed like impossible tasks that they did and the type of stuff they did. So that kind of stays with you through a lifetime.
One of my friends at playgroup with our kids was like, hey, do you want to open a co-op grocery store with me? And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but I'll throw you a party. And I did, and we formed this amazing board of directors, and it took us about 3 years, and we raised $1 million and opened up the co-op grocery store, which is one of the great hubs of Pittsboro. And working with that team, John Bonnett's one of them, was an amazing part of my history here, just getting to raise money and meet the people of Chatham. We were one of the biggest local food places. In co-op land, everyone helps each other because it's cooperative. It truly is cooperative. But we got to learn from all the other co-ops and how to do things and how not to do things.
I mean, it used to be that I couldn't go to the store and not see every face was familiar. Now I go in and very often I don't know anybody in the store. That's exciting. That's the growth. There was a period where we grappled with the question of residential growth and development as a board and decided that we would sell shares. Cooperative ownership shares are usually really tied to the individual, to the person, because it's very much about a community of people. And we decided intentionally to sell shares to developers so that they could play a role. Those that were progressive enough to acknowledge and recognize that this is a special community. It's got special things and assets like this co-op grocery. And if you buy this house, you get a share in that grocery.
The mission of Chatham Marketplace is to buy local as much as possible. And a co-op is owned by the people. So we probably have over 3,000 owners. And the idea is that at some point when we pay back all the loans and all the notes and the banks and whatever we have outstanding, then if there's a profit, those dividends go back to the owners. And so it truly is owned by this community. So we have this really rich community around food and farming, and we also have a really rich arts community.
The Sound of Chatham County is two things. One is our tractor firing up most mornings, and the other is hearing Shikori Hills through the woods and over the trees coming to our farm from just a mile away.
Robert Michener was a physical therapist. He and Jordan Puryear from up in New England, who's another musician up in New York, the Puryears and others had started the Finger Lakes Grassroots Festival outside Ithaca in Trumansburg, originally as an AIDS concert. And then they did it again, it became a festival, and they started looking for a southern location to do that same festival. And they looked around in Florida and they looked various places, and they found this beautiful property in Silcope outside Pittsburgh in Siler City. And it was for sale. And after a certain number of years, when we really got ourselves settled and established, we decided to break that off and create a second nonprofit that was local to North Carolina and to Chatham, called the Shikori Hills Community Arts Center. So the Shikori Hills Community Arts Center and the Finger Lakes Grassroots organization together, kind of 50-50, put on and run and own the Shikori Festival. It's a little complicated, but it's definitely, a nonprofit.
It was just so exciting to have a music festival come that close to us. So of course we supported it, and we raised our kids there. And I mean, that place is pure bliss. And it's like families. People get married there, and families form, and whenever you go back every 6 months, you're like at home, and you don't care that you're covered in mud and it's raining, like, because that's part of Shikori. It is a really special place, and it's a time when you can just kind of let your hair down, and like, no matter what's going on in your life, you're going to spend 4 days there and just celebrate and have those deep conversations with friends you haven't seen in a while, and meet new people, and there's arts, and you see the little kids are now adults, and they're running their own, booth selling things and stuff. So it's a beautiful thing that we have.
I mean, there's just going to be a time when kids that came to Shikori are bringing their kids to Shikori, to the festival, and there's something really special about that.
When I first moved to America, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, my first performance, it was Shikori. That was my first performance in America. Performance in Shikori is opened my experience a lot, and it was wonderful. I have a great time, and all time when I was performing there, my first time. So I want to communicate with my audience, but I don't speak English. but I communicate with them with my music. I grab them, I have them, and so I'm supposed to performance one time, but they make me performance 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I close. It was great. Yeah. Griot is it's a storyteller. It's like a library. How many books is in a library? 1 billion, a lot, right? Every book you need to read it, you have to go to the library. You're gonna find them there. But Griot, we don't have that. Our library is here. So I remember when I was 3 years old, Papa, Mama, they always sit nighttime to tell you. So today what they told you and tomorrow what they're gonna tell you is not gonna be same. So you keep all that. They wait when you're 5 or 10. They ask you, do you remember what I told you when you was 3? Do you remember that story? Can you tell me, repeat that? So that's how we keep story, keep Griot. Yeah. My music is always story, and then also is basically my mission is a revolution. What kind of revolution is equality and peace and love and forgiveness. That's my mission, to remember people, bring them back.
I'm definitely considered an outsider in Siler City, even though I've lived there 17 years, in many ways, But I love that there are so many different types of people in one town, and I prefer that kind of rural diversity to sort of homogenize cultures that are closer to urban centers, even though I love my Carborough and Chapel Hill and Raleigh and Durham, which are not homogenized at all. I don't mean to say that completely, but there's something about when you're all together, and I dig that. So I'm gonna miss that. I cry, but sorry. I'm gonna miss that, because even though I love going to Raleigh and places like that, people don't say hello to each other in the stores. In Siler City, if I need therapy, I just go to Piggly Wiggly.
I hope there will be even more folks who come to Chatham County, not just because it's cheap, but because of how wonderful a place it is, how rich the history is, how unique the history is in so many of the ways we've just begun to explore today, and how that can be respected, uplifted, and enhanced, and remembered.
Being near Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, we've always been in a unique situation. You can find any kind of activity that you want to do. If you want to go stroll around in the country, you can go over and find plenty of open spaces here in our county to be out and about. You can go to some of these big towns for concerts and educational events, etc. And of course, each kind of person has its own kind of interest and vice versa. So, you can find whatever you want to be and like here in Chatham.
It seems to be a place for people who want to slow down a bit. The location is so interesting, being close to the capital of the state and all the happenings of like maybe Orange County, Durham County, areas. But Chatham is like within reach, easy reach of those places, but it's quiet. You can look at the trees, you can look at the pastures, and it's just quieter and maybe a little more connected to nature.
Growing up from a one-stop light town to now, it's spreading out and emerging in with Chapel Hill, merging in with, Cary, merging in probably somewhat Sanford is coming this way, and that kind of thing. So it's amazing to see the growth, and we have to understand that everything has to grow and has to change. Anything that doesn't change is stagnant, and you will die from your own stagnation. That's the thing we have to always remember. We have to grow and we have to change.
The only thing that doesn't change is change. And so you really just have to let go of your attachments and be right here, right now in this place. And so that has just really enhanced, my love for this place and my love for what new people coming bring. So as I cry and get sentimental and have fear, I also have hope that new people will come in and appreciate this community and add things I didn't expect. Like the other people, there are multiple waves of people coming here, and the people that came in some of the most recent waves are some of my most favorite people in the world, and they bring things that are really juicy good, so and have added to the complexity of this painting, this living, ever-changing, dynamic painting of being part of humanity. And if you think about it, that's how it's always been, We've always been changing and migrating, and language has always been changing, stories have been changing. We don't speak the same way that people spoke, on the Outer Banks, as we talked about before this interview started, that, they were still using Middle English words there that we don't use, So, it's like, it's always emerging, and I'm just glad to be here and alive, and it's just kind of amazing that we're in this body at all. So here we are.
You can find whatever you're looking for here. That's the only thing it's so diverse. You've got educated people, you've got artists, you've got anything you're looking for, you can find a buddy, a farmer, a businessman, a dancer, an artist. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it here. It's a good place to be.
I'm not folk insofar as I went to college. I'm from a far off place. I'm not of this place, but I'm really interested in folk pottery, folk art. But I'm not an artist because what I make is functional ceramics. And so I'm caught in what I think of as a liminal space. It's a space between categories. Chatham's been a good spot for it, for all of those reasons. We're sort of, it's like a liminal space between the capital and Research Triangle Park and the universities, and then the rural south of my wood guys and my clay guys and the granite quarry guys, and it's just nice to have your feet in lots of different worlds and be fully awake to what's going on around you and have it filter into your work.
All right, whenever you guys are ready. Chatham split from Orange in 1771. That was even before that war was won. Over time, the population did spark, especially that crazy-ass Chatham Park.
Welcome y'all to Chatham County, home to Goldston, Bennett, Bear Creek, and Bondley. Lots of folks are moving here, and now downtown Pittsburgh's drowning in beer. Vibe feels a little less quaint and a little more city.
halfway between the mountains and the sea.
We're known for our unique diversity. We encourage you to take in all our charms, artist controversy and sustainable farms. And the Bynum front porch shows in Chatham County.
Animals here won't do you no harm. The tiger rescue or alpaca farm. In the 1800s, they killed every rabbit they seen. In New York City, it was high cuisine. Chatham rabbit.
Oh, Chatham rabbits? Oh, I get it now. Okay, okay, got it. There's also lots of water here for you to partake. There's the Haw River, Deep River, Jordan Lake. And sometimes a loud alarm might scare us when they're testing out the nuclear Sharon Harris.
Oh yeah, a man with silkworms was a bigwig. Brought them to a grove, and he had dreams to make it big. The venture didn't manage to grow his scope, but he left, and now the area is called Silk Cove.
That's where I got his name.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
For the movie.
Fair faucet.
Welcome y'all to Chatham County, home to Goldston, Bennett, Bear Creek, and Bonley.
Did you say Farrah Fawcett?
I did.
Lots of folks are moving here, and now downtown Pittsburgh's drowning in beer. Vibe feels a little less quaint and a little more city.
We're halfway between the mountains and the sea.
We're known for our unique diversity.
We encourage you to take in all our charms, artist controversy and sustainable farms. And the Bynum front porch shows in Chatham County.
Hungry folks here brag on Allen's barbecues. Recommend Verley's, Al's, or Brownie Lou's. If sweet's what you want, there's S&T's ice cream. Or buy some fancy fruitcake down at Southern Supreme.
Fruitcake.
My favorite Christmas tree? Devil's Tramping Grounds, a legend that makes some balk. Heard the 40-foot circle is where Satan would walk. Was it spells or spirits, or was it a sign? Or was it just bootleggers hiding their moonshine?
Lately, them cat ladies have been showing pride. And here in Chatham, we must confide. Had a famous cat lady in Siler City. That grumpy old actress that played Aunt Bee.
Oh, Opie's Aunt.
Opie's Aunt.
Welcome y'all to Chatham County. Many small towns here for you to see. Lots of fancy people are moving here, and now everyone in Pittsburgh's holding a beer. Is it just me, or are we feeling kind of touristy?
We're the geographic center of the state.
We're wondering if these new folks can relate
To a strange contrast we're well known for, a yoga place next to a hardware store. Vegan cookies at the tractor pulls, ain't that great?
Oh, near Sugar Lake, the government put a secret bunker where during nuclear war, important people could
Get down.
hunker. And the big hole was for underground hotlines, and it even made it into a Stranger Things plot line
Yes!
on Netflix.
I saw that one.
There's a lot of them, man.
And there was a drug bust undertaken with speed. 2 tons of premium weed. They buried it in a great big hole. When they came back, Creighton it done got stole.
I never heard it. I heard it was returned. I heard they never found that.
They-
I heard that the police have it.
I'm sure you're right.
That's where I heard that.
Finally, we can't leave out Tiny Moncure. It's a special place, and that's for sure. Someone once shot the C off their sign. Welcome to Manure, it read. Mighty fine.
Welcome y'all to Chatham County, home to Goldston, Bennett, Bear Creek, and Bonley. Lots of folks are moving here, now downtown Pittsburgh's drowning in beer. Vibe feels a little less quaint and and a little more city.
We're halfway between the mountains and the sea.
We're known for our unique diversity. We encourage you to take in all our charms, artist controversy and sustainable farms.
And of course,
the Bynum Front Porch Shows in Chatham County.
I got there.
because I try to go up there.